Hello, everyone. Welcome to our show. We are joined today by a very special guest, the Honorable Kelvin Buck, Mayor of Holly Springs, Mississippi. I'm really excited to have Mayor Buck join us. As many of you all know, he is a graduate of Rusk College. He received a BA in Mass Communications here and also a Master's in Public Policy and Administration from Jackson State. For those who don't know about our mayor's tremendous background of public service, prior to serving as mayor, he was also an alderman for the city of Holly Springs, and he represented Marshall and Benton County for 10 years in the Mississippi House of Representatives. He serves on the Marshall County Industrial Development Board and the Strawberry Plains Audubon Center Board of Directors. For those who wear the blue and white, you might be interested to know that he is a member of Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated, and he's also a sponsor of the Boy Scouts. He's a native of Tupelo, Mississippi. Welcome, Mayor Buck. We're excited to have you with us here today.
Taylor, I'm so glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, and thank you for the very warm welcome that I have received here since my arrival in Holly Springs. It's been a wonderful experience for my family and I here living in this community. Of course, it is a difficult time for most of us in dealing with the pandemic, so I wanted to ask you what's going on down at City Hall in relation to policies related to COVID-19. How are you and the other city leaders handling the pandemic?
Well, that's an excellent question, but let me begin by, first of all, again, welcoming you to our community. It was our pleasure to welcome you to City Hall a few weeks ago, and certainly we're very excited about your leadership in the community, and we extend all our hospitality that we can as a city to you and the Rusk College family.
Thank you.
The pandemic has been a challenge nationwide. And so Holly Springs is certainly no different in having to reach out and meet all the different needs that our community has. We have taken all the necessary steps and protocols to try to minimize the impact, negative impact of this COVID epidemic. With that said, the challenge is always to get everyone to understand the importance of following those guidelines, and then to come up with policies that can encourage that. And so we've tried to come out with several different orders or guidelines, sets of guidelines citywide that relate to trying to make sure that our community remains safe. And those guidelines range from wearing masks to social distancing to limiting the number of people that are in any particular gathering, all of the things that we've been hearing over and over again through the different agencies that are issuing guidelines. We tried to follow those. For the most part, our city has responded well. Our schools have recently opened. That has been a major concern for us here most recently. Some of them are doing well with this process, and others are having the challenges as well. So it's an ongoing, day by day. You just have to be flexible and make the decisions based on common sense. I've always said to everyone that's involved, if they use some good common sense, they probably will do okay with dealing with the pandemic.
Okay.
Yes.
Are you all currently working off any projections on how long the guidelines may need to be in place, or is it just day by day?
Well, I at one time thought that we might be able to, around September or so, probably lift a lot of the restrictions that we have, the mask requirement. At this point, I'm not so certain. Mississippi has been in the national news, as many people know, as one of the hot spots that has had a trend upward with the number of cases. And because of this, even Marshall County has seen the same kinds of experiences, not as much as other areas. We haven't been designated, in fact, as one of the counties that the governor particularly pointed out as areas that are in serious trouble. But with that said, we border DeSoto County, and that is a county that has been identified as having a high number of cases.
Okay.
So our restrictions will basically stay in place until we can see that there's really an opportunity for us to lift them. And that will be determined by the numbers. And so whenever those numbers we see those numbers around us and in the community, begin to stabilize or reduce themselves, then we'll look at removing all of our restrictions or the restrictions that are necessary to remove.
Okay. Well, in the meantime, I know that you have to continue to provide a variety of services to citizens. As a former mayor, I know that the trash pickup doesn't stop
Oh,
no
no.
matter what's going on. So I'm curious as to whether the changes in people's daily patterns and spending habits has affected the city's budget at all.
Well, it has, from the standpoint that, one, when it comes to those services, we've had to do some staggering of our staff, and so our daily operations have changed somewhat, but we still try to stay on top of the different things that are required for city government to provide for the city. For instance, like you indicated, the trash pickup is absolutely an essential service that has to continue. And of course, the public safety never stops, so
Right.
all of our first responders and our policemen have continued to do what they normally do, even during the shutdown. At one point, we were completely shut down as a city because of the pandemic, but we finally began to gradually open up. And so, with that said, we've also been monitoring our revenues. As you know, a municipality gets their revenue primarily from sales tax, and if businesses close, if restaurants are not open, then that definitely has an impact on your revenue stream. With us, we haven't seen a tremendous drop-off, but it is something that we're closely monitoring because, you know, sometimes the delay in that impact may come a month or two down the road. And so we have frozen some spending. We only do essential kinds of things that need to be done. We held off on some major projects that we had planned and delayed them a little bit until we can more clearly see where we're going to be financially, you know, as it relates to our budget.
Okay, well, it sounds like you all are being maybe cautiously optimistic.
That's correct.
While ensuring that business goes on as close to usual as possible.
That's good.
If citizens are interested in finding out about any changes that have occurred in services, how can they access that information?
Well, there are a couple of ways, and that's, again, is a very good question, and I'm glad that we can have an opportunity to share this with the public. One of the ways that you can get the information is to go to our website. And I tell people the best way to go to our website is to just Google Holly Springs, City of Holly Springs. It's easy rather than giving them all the www and all that kind of thing. Just Google the City of Holly Springs, go to our website. You can find all the different information as it relates to the COVID guidelines, as it relates to any of the services that we provide and where to call. The other method of getting in touch with us is to call City Hall directly, and that number is 662-252-5280. 662-252-5280. Someone will answer the phone and be able to answer any question or respond to any situation you might have. Then finally, of course, if there's any emergency, you call the normal emergency number of 911, and our police and fire are on duty and ready to respond.
I know in some of our conversations you mentioned that you're still meeting with the Board of Aldermen through Zoom. Are you all continuing to have your meetings via Zoom?
We are, and that has been pretty interesting. I kind of like it because it makes the meetings shorter. There's less talking going on. We can usually take care of business pretty quickly. But yes, we have, and I do my department head meetings in the same way. Because we have so many people that participate in the department head and in department head meetings, I decided to keep those in the same way. But now, as it relates to the public meeting of our Board of Aldermen, they are still public, and we do maintain a public presence by providing a avenue for people to see the meeting in its entirety at the Multipurpose Center via Zoom. What we do is we set up the big screen there, and we have the speakers on, and so people can hear all of the discussion, all of the decisions, all of the votes, and that way we maintain our compliance with the law that requires the meetings to be public.
Okay, wonderful.
Yeah.
Is there also an interactive way for citizens to share if they had a comment, or should they just write in?
Well, we prefer that if you have a reason to be on the agenda, that you do that and submit your request prior to the meeting by contacting City Hall, and then we'll allow you to go ahead and make that place you on the agenda. Otherwise, you know, our meetings are not set up so that we can have people just
Okay.
commenting all through the meeting.
Sure.
We'd never get a meeting completed
Sure.
that way. So there is an avenue for public comment and participation in the meeting, but that request has to come in prior to the meeting so that we can have
Okay.
you on the agenda.
Well, it's good for people to know what the process is.
Yes.
I'm reflecting on some of my time presiding over public meetings where we did have comments on most of the items on the agenda, and there were a few meetings that ran past midnight
Oh
or
my God, yes.
even later if there was a controversial issue.
Oh yes.
But I think it's wonderful that people are learning how to use Zoom in many new and different ways to stay engaged and to stay connected and know what's going on in their community. So we appreciate you making that opportunity available. Well, I was wondering what big projects are on the horizon once we kind of get past COVID.
Well, we have a number of projects that we've had on the agenda in plan and preparation for some time now. And I like to think that we do the ongoing, regular, routine types of things like street repairs and sidewalk repairs and park and recreational upgrades. But then there are big projects such as our Aquatic Center. We are trying very hard to fund an aquatic center that would be sort of a combination aquatic and wellness center, where swimming, where learning to swim could take place, and also therapeutic things like that might relate to health could be done, as well as some other kinds of activities within the facility itself. So this is a big, we've done all the feasibility studies, we've got the design done. Everything is waiting until we get past a few things here related to this COVID, because it requires quite a bit of funding.
Okay.
And we have to make sure that budgetarily our funds are going to continue to go in the direction that they were going prior to COVID, so that we can make sure we can make the payments. So that's always important.
Yes.
So the Aquatic Center is certainly a big deal. We are presently we're in the middle of a annexation, and the annexation is a big a deal for us because it will expand the city limits, include some areas that we already provide many services to already, like fire protection, water, and gas, but they're not actually in the city limits. So this annexation is now in the legal realm. We've done all we can do at the meeting area with the Board of Aldermen in terms of our votes and resolutions, but now it has to go through a process in the courts where people can contest the annexation. But the annexation will give us an opportunity to grow the city.
Well,
these
I
are
am
areas that are
certainly
very important.
interested in learning more about that, because you might remember my background is in urban planning.
Yeah.
But before you provide us more details, we're going to take a quick break.
Okay, very good.
At this time, we'll hear a selection from the Russ College a cappella choir under the direction of Dr. Arlandra Harvey.
If ye love me, keep my commandments, and I will pray the Father, and He shall give you
everyone. We're here continuing the conversation with the Honorable Kelvin O. Buck, Mayor of Holly Springs. Well, Mayor, you were just sharing a little bit about the annexation plans and how that's an opportunity for Holly Springs to grow. So right now, there's a legal process that would need to be completed.
Yeah.
Well, what's the timeline for completion of the process?
Our legal staff has indicated that we'll actually be in court this month trying to at least have some preliminary hearings on it, see who's in objection to it, and if they're going to file a legal objection. One thing is to have some people have some comments about it outside the legal realm, and then it's another to go into court and have a legal objection to it. So we got to go through that process. I anticipate somewhere around the end of this year we should be done with the whole process, hopefully, and then we'll begin the process of implementing the changes. There'll have to be some line changes as it relates to the wards because of the measurements and things, and making sure that they're equal. So that process may take a little extra time, but we fully anticipate the legal process and the approval of this annexation to be done sometime before the end of the year.
Do you anticipate a big increase in the population as a result?
Well, it won't be as big of a population increase initially because the areas that we're taking in are not heavily populated. These are areas that we anticipate economic development in terms of retail, and places where we anticipate some housing potential development. We think that at the current boundaries of the city of Holly Springs, we are kind of landlocked in areas where there can be new development. But housing development, as you know, is very important to a community. And we are focused on trying to create some areas where developers are very much interested in developing new housing. And so with all of this coming together, it'll be a big growth initiative for us in terms of the potential for economic and housing development.
Well, I certainly want to stay connected with you on those issues. That's a key interest for me because as we try to attract faculty here, the availability of housing is a key issue for individuals, and just also the perception of the community in general. For new students who are arriving as freshmen, what would you want them to know about the Holly Springs community?
Well, first of all, I'd want them to know that they have someone in City Hall who is 100% behind them and looking forward and excited about their arrival and their participation in our community fully. Right now, we have several initiatives that allow the students in the city to work together. We have a job career center where we do a career fair, a job fair, and that involves Rush College participating very strongly in that event. And then we have other little events that allow students to participate through tutoring or mentoring, through working with the city in the city hall, and all kinds of things that we look forward to. But the main thing I would say is that for students coming to Holly Springs, we are very much interested in making this more and more of a college town, a college community, and they are a big part of that. And we want them to feel very comfortable about being free to move around in our city and enjoy themselves while they're here.
Okay, that's wonderful to know.
Yes.
We'll make sure to convey that message to them. Well, let's talk about your time here as a student. Tell us some reflections on your time as a student and about the fact that you majored in mass communications.
Well, Rush College really turned my life around in a lot of ways. I came here as a non-conventional student, actually. I actually worked here and finished up my degree here. And so it was an opportunity for me to expand my horizon. And I got involved with mass communication. It was kind of a natural fit for me. I really appreciated it. We had some excellent professors and instructors and staff that really were able to help all of us kind of grow together. And so it had a major impact on my life, and then gave me many more opportunities to move forward in some other areas. And so the experience here was an experience where I felt that the hands-on approach that the mass comm opportunity presented to any student who really wanted to apply themselves allowed them to be able to go into the profession and actually go right to work. Some classes are theory only. Mass comm is not a area of expertise where you can only just focus on theory. You have to be able to do editing and writing and all of the other kinds of things that go along with the broadcast media area or the print media area. And so Rush College afforded us that opportunity. As a student and as a staff person, I tried to make that experience for students and myself as rewarding as possible.
And then you went on to a career in
Yeah.
communications before your public service career. So based on your reflections of kind of how the broadcast industry was when you were working in communications and what you observe now, what would you advise our students who may be in the mass communications field today as far as how they can have their voices heard during this current time?
Wow, that is a major, major opportunity right now. I think for a long time, the media wrote the story, and the story was not always accurate. It was stereotypical, it was misleading, it certainly was not in a positive way showing the entire community, and in particular, the African American community. So this is a great opportunity for students in mass communication to reach out and use the various mediums within the media area, whether it be social media, which is big now, internet news, well, conventional media, which might be broadcast radio or television or print journalism. This is a great opportunity for this career where young people can go into it and apply themselves and be serious about it and understand the awesome responsibility that comes with being in the media and how many people you can touch and influence with it, and use that as a way to turn the page on the perception that has been portrayed by us about us in the media for so many years. I think I often, as a mayor, I'm very frustrated with the media when they come and they only want to focus on negative stories in the community. So when you put students in those roles as producers, as editors, as anchors, and all of the other kind of expertise and fields of media, then they can be more fair in their journalism. Journalism, to me, sometimes has become a lost art. It's because there's not enough emphasis on real journalism and the true meaning of being fair and objective in your storytelling.
Well, kind of following up on that idea, I know that Holly Springs is a small community, so we don't have beyond the Russ TV station. We don't have a TV station here. How do you get positive coverage or in the nearby markets on Holly Springs? How do we get folks in the broader area? How do you work to get the story out on what's happening in Holly Springs?
We have to tell our own story for the most part, and we do that using social media, whether it be our own webpage or Facebook or some other medium that would allow us to tell our own story. We do have a local newspaper, the South Reporter, that comes out weekly, in which we try to make sure that they're aware of any positive story that's going on, and they do a good job here locally of doing that. The market that is most dominant in this area, the Memphis Market, with all of your major network affiliates like ABC, CBS, and NBC, they're in the Memphis area, and of course we certainly try to reach out to them and let them know when something positive is going on. They make an editorial decision as to whether they want to cover it or not, but that's an ongoing process. As you'll know, and being a leader of Russ College, the idea of putting the message out there and doing your own public relations is very important.
Yes, yes. We recently had a success in the Memphis Market. We had a story, a positive story about Russ featured on one of the Memphis stations. So we felt that was a step in the right direction, and we're going to keep pushing in that way. But as you mentioned, it's important to use the tools that we have through social media, our webpage, and some of the local newspapers. Do you want to talk just a little bit about your thoughts on social media?
Well, you probably don't want to hear what I have to say about most social media, I can tell you, because I'm not impressed with it from the standpoint that most of the time it's not used in the best way. In other words, it could certainly be a great tool when it's used in a way that is positive, but too often it's used, things like Facebook are used to do more damage than good, and that to me is problematic. With that said, I still think that there's a great opportunity to use those mediums when you control the message yourself as an organization or as an agency or as an institution like Russ and as a city. So there are great opportunities to do that, and we use that as often and in the best way we can.
That is something that I really hope to drive home to the students, because so many young people, social media is their main form of communication.
Yes.
And where they get their news. And I really want for our Russ College students to understand the balance between, the information that they may get there, whether or not it's fact-checked, and to start using some of our traditional forms of media, though, as you just acknowledged, in the past, some of the coverage of, Black people, Black institutions, Black communities may have been stereotypical. And so we still do need to work to push past that. So there is lots of work to do, and I think there's great frontiers and horizons for rising mass communications majors to think about what's in the future. But I know that they're all inspired by your story of persistence in getting your degree, your experience here at Rust, and then your admirable record of public service.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Can you tell us what are some of the most fun parts of being the mayor?
The best part for me is to see your vision, your projects, your ambitions come to life. Whether it's opening up a new program for young people like our Youth Activity Center, where we engage young people at a very young age to be part of something very similar to a Boys and Girls Club, but it offers so many different opportunities for them. So to see that start from the scratch and become a viable part of your community, those kinds of projects and achievements are very important to us, to see our city continue to grow and improve, to see people work together, and just a chance to serve. A public servant is just an opportunity. It's an honor and a privilege. It's not a time for anyone to try to make themselves better than anyone. It's a time to really reach out and maybe impact the quality of life for an overall community.
Yes. Well, Mayor Buck, very well said.
Yeah.
We are so excited that you had the chance, you took the time to share with us today, and we look forward to, I certainly am looking forward to working in partnership with you to make Holly Springs into a true college town, and to make investments that can benefit both our students here as well as the larger Holly Springs community. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Great to be with you, Dr. Taylor.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. We'll see you next time.